So, guys, welcome to the final event of the Artificial and Tech Talk series. I think you all know that we have spent much through time in the artificial intelligence domain with various fields. So, in this scenario, in this journey, you have got experience about basic AI, and also you got the experience about rather than basic AI and robotics, neuroengineering, and quality engineering and music. Likewise, in these 5 weeks, you got a good knowledge of what is AI and how we can use AI in this domain. So, in the morning session, we told you that there will be surprising event. So this is the surprising event. So we are going to take you through another level of experience. So rather than the theoretical application, we are going to take you to ML application use cases. So our guest speaker is Mr. Madhuga Pereira. So talking about him, Mr. Madhuga Pereira. So he's a well-trained associate manager quality engineering at Cisco Labs Sri Lanka, and also he's a result-oriented quality engineering professional with 10 plus years of experience in the software industry, building teams and handling quality stream strategies for large-scale software system. So he knows everything about the quality engineering, and he knows the applications regarding that. So my invitation is up to Mr. Madhu Pereira. So the online coding is up to you. So before I'm going with that, so in this session, okay, I want to thank all of you that you have spent much through this time, with this 5 milestone, with 2 questions so far, you have given us some good strength to do a better CSR project. So actually, over 9 countries, the participants have participated in this event. So as the Chief Operating Officer, I am very grateful, and my team are very grateful of this scenario. So I invite Mr. Madhuga Pereira to the session, continue your session to express this. What is this ML application?
Okay. Thank you very much, Vidura. Can you all hear me loud and clear?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So let me first share my screen. Let you know whether you can see that. Can you all see the presentation?
Yes.
All right. So, thank you very much for the lovely introduction, Vidura, and the team. And it's been a privilege for you all to, it's been a privilege for me to, have some kind of opportunity to talk to you in this level. And I hope everyone is have enjoyed all the sessions that you have concluded during the past few weeks or so. And I will try my level best to, give you something up in terms of machine learning and the real world examples that I have, a few experienced of. So without further ado, let me get into the core topic. So today I'll be speaking about a real world example, a real world application that we built. It was there during the past few years, but we were able to incorporate certain machine learning related modules and customize it to get maximum or the optimum results out of it. So that's the thing that I'm going to talk about. So before going into detail about that particular application, let me quickly, bring you all a few interesting sets. So I assume that at least one of you can take one of the stats to gain, your knowledge in machine learning. and to increase your enthusiasm in learning machine learning and AI related technologies. So here are some few quick facts that I found on Google. The first one is CAGR, so compound annual growth rate. So this is, I mean, if you consider machine learning as an industry, a single industry, in 2018 they have predicted that it has a annual compound growth rate of close to 42% growth rate. So it's massive, and with this pandemic situation and all, I assume that it has grown up further. So that's my take on that. But if you consider the world machine learning market, I mean, this is it. So this is where we should all target, and this is why we should learn machine learning and related subjects to deliver better results in time to come. So the next stats I would like you all to learn is that within the next 10 years time, I mean, if you consider only the job market in the USA only, so 38% of the USA's job market are expected to be replaced by AI-based technology. So the question for us is, are we ready for that? Are we ready to take up that challenge? And have we learned enough to make that vacuum filled? So that's a question for us, open question for all the participants. And then comes the interesting part. Now, we have passed several eras, namely we have passed software as a service era and network as a service, platform as a service. Now we are passing machine learning as a service, the new era. So this is where we should be targeting. And I'm pretty sure that out of all the workshops that you have been going through during the past few weeks or so, you have learned at least one or two few things. Then you can capitalize on it and then move forward. All right. So with that being said, let's move on to the core topic of the day, that is verifying machine learning applications. Now, this is basically focusing on building a machine learning app in its smaller steps and then verifying it from a quality engineering perspective. So like Vidura mentioned, I'm Madhuka Pereira. I work for Cisco Labs as an associate manager quality engineering. So during this presentation, I will walk you through the problematic scenarios that we encountered during the application implementation and why we needed a machine learning solution for that. So those things I'm going to discuss. And then the solution that we selected through machine learning and how we developed it, what models that we selected. Likewise, we can discuss about that. And then the approach, I mean, there were many approaches, but we wanted to stick ourselves to a single approach so that we get the optimum result. I will be discussing about the approach and then the challenges that we encountered throughout the journey. So it will be a story, a successful story that we have achieved until we deliver this particular application to the real world customers. Okay, so first things first, what were to be resolved. So before going into this problematic scenario, guys, I would like to make you a request. If you do have any sort of questions in the interim, you can maybe send a question to Vidura or the organizing committee, or else you can just switch on your microphone and just raise your hand, ask it. All right. So what were to be resolved in this particular application? We dig deep into that. I think you all should have a better understanding about my business context. Now, this is something related to my business context. So at Cisco Labs, now we are based in Sri Lanka, and we are the key technology provider for Cisco Incorporation. Now, what is Cisco Incorporation? If you Google it, you would notice that it's the world's biggest food services company in the world. Food services company. So it has businesses in Canada, in US, all the regions, and then UK and few other European countries. So it has about 65,000 to 75,000 associates working around the globe for the company. And when I say the biggest food service provider, if you look at the Fortune 500 company list, this is again based on 2019-2020 stats, it's rated at 56th position. So this is just to get you a bit of an understanding about the capacity and the customer base that we operate. And their main business is food services. So what is food services? So it means now they have these large warehouses, and from those warehouses, they dispatch food items and they deliver it to a particular location. What are these locations? For example, let's say here in Sri Lanka or any other country, we have Pizza Hut, we have McDonald's. Likewise, so for those restaurants, they do the delivery of food items, and they maintain all the warehouses, and that's a separate business for Cisco. But this particular application is directly dealing with the delivery of a food item. Now, before this pandemic situation, they used to deal with B2B businesses, business to business. So they have these large, huge trucks and huge vehicles where they deliver food items to a pre-identified location. Or it's again something like Pizza Hut or McDonald's. Now, during the pandemic, they got the approval to reach out to direct customers like small restaurants, small grocery shops, likewise. So now we all know that US is kind of in a recovery mode these days. Now we have a bigger customer base catering to B2B plus B2C. So that's the customer base that we are right now catering. All right. This particular application that I'm going to talk about is a very simple mobile application, but it acts as an integral part of the large e-commerce platform that we operate here in Sri Lanka. So basically, why we needed the e-commerce platform? Because we needed a platform to submit orders for our clients. So what they do is, now let's say McDonald's wants some kind of a food item, then they come into our website and they order that particular amount and pay that. So that's it. Just like you order something from our supermarket. It's a similar process, but here the quantity is large and the transaction amount is huge. So that's the difference. And at the point of, we all know that once that happens, then this particular order dispatches from the warehouse. And now let's say you all might have used applications like Pick Me Foods, Uber Eats. I'm pretty sure that every one of you must have experienced that kind of application. So similarly, this application is also about tracking your delivery. That's it. So but when you say track your delivery, now let's say as soon as you order something from Uber Eats, and once you do the payment, what would be the more the highlighting factor, what would be the more concerned factor from your end? I'm pretty sure it's the arrival time, right? When you order something from Uber Eats, as soon as you complete the transaction, then you would wonder, when will I be getting it, right? That's the first question that comes to your mind. Similarly, now these customers here in US or other regions, they do the order and they would want to know, when will I be getting this order? Because it has a dependency, because they are maintaining large restaurants, they have a dependency until they reach these food items. For that only we prepared this mobile application. It was there in the past few years or so, but we saw a accuracy issue in terms of predicting estimated time of arrival. Now let's say you order something from Uber Eats, it says the delivery guy will get you the item in 15 minutes, and you wait till about 15 minutes and still the guy is not there. And then after about 45 minutes later, the guy knocks your door and deliver the food items. Obviously, you would feel happy that at least you got the food item, but it's way beyond your expectations, right? So that has become an issue for this particular application as well. So we figured out two different parameters to optimize these accuracy rates. So now let's say if you consider a single delivery, a truck delivering goods from a warehouse to a pre-identified location, it has two different parameters that we can think of. One is the stoppage time, as I have given in this presentation. The other one is the travel time. What is the stoppage time? When you are at a traffic light, we can consider it as a stoppage time. Oh, and then when you are at a restaurant unloading goods, then again a stoppage time. And apart from all these scenarios, when you are driving on the road, it can be considered as travel time. So if we can correctly predict those travel time as well as the stoppage time, then we can collaboratively build a better picture to get the optimum estimated time of arrival. So that's the whole purpose that we wanted to optimize this particular application. Now, you know that I've said a large story. Now, the next slide, I have brief all these contexts into a small video clip. So you can visualize the things that I just explained. If you have any questions soon after this video clip, just you can ask that. Vidura, just confirm me whether you can hear and see the video clip soon after I play this.
Okay.
Can you hear that?
This is a little bit lower.
Is it?
Yeah, this is little lower. Can you just raise the volume?
Sure.
The Cisco delivery
How about now?
lets restaurant owners know the estimated
Better than previous.
Sorry, what's that?
But sound is, but it's okay.
Okay.
You can hear?
So
No, I actually stopped the video. You can hear it, right? Okay, let me play it back. Just forget about the sounds. I mean, look at the images and everything, and I'll explain any missing items later.
the Cisco delivery application lets restaurant owners know the estimated time of arrival based on data from GPS and Cisco handheld devices. However, various uncertainties have impeded the ability to accurately predict PETAs to help customers plan ahead.
Now let me take a quick pause here. Now these are the trucks that are delivering goods from a warehouse to a pre-identified location. Now, as I said earlier, there could be several reasons preventing us predicting the optimum result for a accurate time of arrival. So that now this video explains about what are those hindrance or difficulties that we encounter.
And better manage labor costs. These could be unforeseen delays due to traffic conditions, inclement weather, any breakdowns in transit, variations in driver behavior, driving speed, navigation capability, non-compliance nature of drivers resulting in skip locations, static ETA windows, missing delayed or early arrivals at locations, or lack of real-time updates.
All right. So can you all, I think you heard what was being said in the video clip, right? Let's look at the final picture. Now, now I said, now these trucks are delivering goods from a warehouse to a pre-identified location, but due to these reasons, due to traffic conditions, bad weather, a breakdown, slow driving, so non-compliance driving, skipping certain locations. So due to various other reasons, we are unable to predict the most optimum time of arrival. So that has been the key issue here. So that's the issue that we are trying to resolve through machine learning. Hope you understand this situation, right? All right. Now we know the problematic situation, and at that time, we were thinking of what sort of machine learning approach would work to resolve this out. So next This is what we were thinking at that time, resolving it through machine learning. How are we going to resolve it? So here I'm not going to talk about now machine. When you consider machine learning, it's a vast area. So I'm not going to talk about all the aspects in detail here because we don't have that much of time. But I will speak about only the things that we specifically used to optimize this machine learning algorithm. So here comes the first slide of that. Now, in this context, we used supervised machine learning approach. So when you say supervised machine learning approach, we have different other approaches as well. For example, we have non-supervised, and it could be semi-supervised as well. So what do you mean by supervised learning? Now, if you take a complete black box where you submit inputs and you expect certain outputs, let's say the black box is kind of the machine learning algorithm that you would want to develop. And in order to do that, in order to get the optimum result, you need to select certain set of inputs and you need to process that in the machine learning algorithm and you need to extract the expected output. So inputs, algorithm, and then comes the outputs. So that's the simple procedure here. So if you know the inputs and outputs, if you know the input parameters and what to expect as the output, then you call it as a supervised learning approach. So in a machine learning terminology, you take it as features and labels. So if you have known features and known labels, you call it a supervised learning approach. When you don't have known features or labels, then it becomes the non-supervised version. And then you can have mix of things where you get the semi-supervised version. Now, in this particular context, we use the supervised approach, and supervised approach has two segregations: classification and regression. So in the next slide, we'll talk about what is classification and regression. Now, remember that we started with using supervised machine learning approach. Now, in this particular side, now here, if you read through the step 1, now we have this different type of animal faces, and this is consider this as the machine learning algorithm, and we expect a discrete segregation with the input values. So this is what you call the classification. You have cats and non-cats, right? So you input certain values, including garbage values, including the values you wanted and not needed, and you do a particular classification here. So likewise, if you do such kind of a classification, here comes the result. Sorting items into categories. That is what you call the classification in the supervised approach. But in a regression approach, you get a continuous result. Now, for example, in one of my previous slides, I mentioned that we wanted to accurately predict the travel time or the stoppage time, right? Stoppage time in the sense where this truck gets stopped, and the travel time is when the truck is in the move, right? So to do that, you can't do it with a single classification, right? It's just a basic segregation, but instead you need to have real-time data. When you have real-time data, your algorithm can be trained to predict continuous data. So it will give you continuous outputs for let's say the stoppage time or the travel time. So that model, we call it as a regression approach. So we identified the supervised approach and then supervised regression approach for this particular exercise. Clear, no? All right. So if you have any questions, then we can have the Q&A session later and answer any questions, right? All right. Then comes the algorithmic part of it. Now we identified the machine learning approach, and then specifically we identified what exactly we wanted. For example, regression approach, and then now we need to know about the algorithmic part of it. Now, what's an algorithm? Now, this is a common definition that you could find in Google. An algorithm is a program that can learn from data and improve from experience without human intervention. So you need data to be fed into algorithm to train that out to get the optimum result. So that's the basic idea of an algorithm. So in this particular example, or this particular exercise, we selected random forest algorithm. I'm pretty sure that you might all already have gone through, hundreds of algorithms. I know for a fact that you guys are all machine learning enthusiasts, AI enthusiasts, so technocrats, I know for sure. And if you Google it, you can find hundreds of thousands of algorithms. Some are custom-made algorithms, right? But having done a detailed research, we selected random forest algorithm to be equipped with this particular approach. So what is random forest algorithm? This is basics. So random forest algorithm, forget about the algorithm part. If you take a normal forest, what do we have in a normal forest? We have trees, right? When you have multiple trees, you call it a forest. One would say we have animals as well, but before the animal, we should have trees, right? So that's the basic understanding. So likewise, in this particular algorithm, we have decision trees. So normal forest would represent with multiple trees. This random forest algorithm represents multiple decision trees. Now each decision tree, I'm pretty sure that you all know what is a decision tree, right? So in that case, each decision tree spits out a prediction class. So in simple words, you have a decision tree, and when you process that out, you get a particular prediction output, or rather, in simple terms, it's the output. So when you have multiple decision trees, you get multiple outputs. Now, how do we determine the single output that we expected? It's based on the voting mechanism. Now, when you have 10 decision trees, you will have multiple predictions as the result, and your algorithm is capable enough to do some kind of a voting mechanism, and the most popular output becomes the final answer. So that becomes the optimum result that we would normally expect. Now, if you didn't quite get what I said, let me brief you this picture. Now, this is a single decision tree, the left one, yellow one, right? Now, this has several branches. Now, when you have multiple such trees, you call it the random forest algorithm. And now, as this diagram depicts, upon processing, you get certain outputs. Now, let's say this class one, and there are class 2 outputs as well. So if you see now you can see the most popular output is class 1. So eventually the class 1 would become the optimum output out of this algorithm. That's how it works. So if you need more details, you can simply Google it up. These are the fundamentals about the random forest algorithm. Now, if you go back a little 10 minutes down the line, now initially we selected supervised machine learning approach, specifically supervised regression approach. Why? Because we needed continuous outputs to be predicted to enhance this particular delivery application. And then now that we are employing a random forest algorithm, now we have the approach and the algorithm. Now it's time for us to get into the machine learning model, to train the machine learning model. Now here comes the interesting part, right? So how are we going to train the machine learning model? So there are a few prerequisites and few basics, I would say, to train a particular machine learning model. So these are the prerequisites that we practiced. So we needed some data set, a data set to train the machine learning model. How did we find that? Now, if you can remember, I said that this particular application was in the production for last 2-3 years. So we had the luxury of using that particular production data, but we didn't use all the data to train the model. Why? We needed a certain set of data to test that out. That's why we have this segregation of 70-30 segregation. Now, if you Google it, one would argue that you can have 80% of training data against 20% of test data. Now here, in our context, we use 70% data to train the model, while 30% of data to test that model. And then to do this complex classification, we use Python Pandas library. That's one of the most popular libraries that we have to do AIO machine learning related data classifications. And then to train the model, we use scikit-learn library. So maybe, I mean, for future references, you can just note it down and Google it. You get all the community level support if you are willing to, implement something out of this. Now, this is a very basic, a very simple diagram how you train the model. Like I mentioned earlier, now we have the complete data set here, and we segregate that data set through Python Pandas libraries, 70% of training data and 30% of testing data. And you pump all this data to your newly developed machine learning model, and you get some kind of an output, and you validate or compare that output against the test data set. Now you have the predicted data as well as the test actual data set. So you compare it, and if something goes wrong, then you redo the whole work again. So this is a circular thing. So until you get the most optimum result, you train the model, right? Okay. Now going back to few slides ahead, going back to few slides that we discussed earlier. Now we selected the supervised regression approach, and then we decided on the random forest algorithm. We decided on the data classification part, and we trained the model. Now that there comes the problem of verification the approach. Just because you have a machine learning model in a very isolated place, it doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want, right? So we need a proper verification mechanism, and we for a fact knew that the most conventional testing mechanisms or methodologies wouldn't work as if to test that out, test an application customized or developed through machine learning technologies. That's why we defined our test oracle. So what is a test oracle? It's a mechanism for determining whether your program has passed or failed a test, right? So in simple words, we define certain steps to determine whether the predicted result from your machine learning model is accurate or not. If accurate, what's the accuracy rate? That's a simple thing. So our test oracle comprised with 3 different components, namely generator, comparator, and evaluator. Why we need a generator, why we need a comparator and evaluator, that I'll explain in a while. So just remember these 3 words: generator, comparator, and evaluator. Now, like I said earlier, having a trained machine learning model is not enough for test continuation, because now that time has come to integrate that trained model into our business application. Now, earlier we had this regression approach, supervised regression approach, and then random forest, whatnot, pandas, scikit-learn. You train the model and you get the model and integrate it to a business application. This is the tricky part. Once you integrate the particular algorithm or the machine learning model into a business, and mind you, this is an ongoing, you are trying to change the wheels of a running train, right? So this is this is an application which is still available for the clients, and we are trying to integrate a complete different tech stack into it. That's why the verification part is key here. So why we need a generator? So a generator acts as the mock server or to simulate data, because now we train the model with production data, and you can't have the same set of data to test the application. Why? There could be some erroneous situations, because if the data is wrong for some reason, then you would get erroneous results. So therefore, we needed to simulate certain kind of data. In order to do that, we created this mock server. I'll take you through the mock server in a future slide. Just for your reference, just make a note that to cover up the generator part, that's the number 1 item for our test oracle, we created the mock server. And then comes the comparator. Now we have a data simulation part. The algorithm uses all this data, and we get a output. We get the predicted output, and we needed a comparator to compare that predicted output against the actual results we have, right? That is how, I mean, based on a comparison methodology, we evaluate this model. So in order to compare, we have a separate component, and to evaluate the compared results, whether we have reached the expected accuracy level or not, we develop this evaluator component. So these are the three key components that we developed in our test framework. Now this is kind of the test framework that we developed. Don't guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
I think some signal problem.
Sure. You can't see my presentation, right?
No, you can see now.
Okay, let me share it again. Can you see it now?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, cool. So I was talking about this mock server simulating data to test our machine learning model, and then you get certain outputs. Then you run it through this data comparator part. Why we needed a comparator? Because we get the predicted outputs from this approach, and we need to compare it against the actual results that we have in production, right? So based on that comparison only, we can do a proper validation here. For that, we now along with this mock server and the data comparator and the validator, we achieve targets in achieving the test oracle that I mentioned in my earlier slides. But doing a simple validation doesn't mean that you have all the results that you expected. For that, you have to have adequate reports. So this is an additional component that we developed to generate reports for us. So let's look at these newly introduced components. Before going into that, I mean, if I talk about this framework a bit, so this is a Node.js based framework that we had. So if you Google test automation framework, Node.js based framework, you can find all these common layers here, but there are some business logic. I mean, there are some layers that we introduce certain business logics as well. So to customize that, just to give you a quick understanding about these components only, I drew this diagram. Now moving on with all these red highlighted boxes, let's look at what is mock server. So it's basically it has a very simple UI, and we had a JSON database with our payloads, and it enables us creating dynamic endpoints, and basically we used it to mock all the REST endpoints that have been integrated into this application, so that we can pump in any kind of simulated data into a machine learning algorithm. So this is a simple component, and it's a reusable one. Now, when you are in software industry, one key item is making reusable components. You don't have to, let's say this mock server, we can use it for this machine learning application verification purposes, as well as for any other application testing which uses REST API mocking. So likewise, you have to segregate your needs and do it as reusable as possible. So that's one key items I found during my past experience. And now this covers the first item, that is the generator part in my test oracle. And combining the final two items, that are validation and the comparison, we generate this particular component that was integrated in that framework. So we got the actual results directly reading a CSV file. And then we get the predicted outputs from this machine learning ML model API, and we do the comparison and we generate reports for us to refer. So this is a simple component again, where you get data from two different places, compare it and generate reports. That's it. So what are these reports? What are the values that we derive from there? So we compared range accuracies, standard error calculations, direct comparisons. So what is range accuracy? So that's basically we calculate the accuracy rate of our final output uh, uh, comparatively, as a variance. So in the next slide, I will get into details there. And these standard error calculation methods, these are very standard. Through scikit-learn libraries, it automatically generates these values. So in simple words, if you get a lower value, then it tells you that you have achieved your target or you have achieved the optimum result. Direct comparison is all about directly comparing the actual results against the predicted result. I'll get into more detail in the next few slides. Now this is where you have the range accuracy rates. Now if I go line by line, now you have plus minus 5% of variance, close to 10% data set. Now this is not a good sign. Now this I actually took this halfway down the line when we were developing this application, doing the verification process. Now our target was to increase this 10% up to maybe around 90% and reduce this 60% up to about 5 to 10%. So if the variance is higher, you have many data with higher variance, then it means that you still have work to do to optimize this algorithm. When you have, let's say, plus or minus 5% variance, a data set of around 90%, then it means that you have achieved your target to a greater extent, where you get the optimum result out of it. So that's how we determine range accuracy. As I explained earlier, these are the normal standard values. This is how you interpret it. If you get lower values, then you can get a understanding that you have achieved your targets. So this is the direct comparison I was mentioning. Now this purple line is the predicted output and blue line is the actual output. Now let's say, for example, here you can see a drastic fluctuation against the two values, and here also. So likewise, now it means that you have to do several other optimizations to get into a optimum level. So that's what all about, retraining the machine learning model. Now I was actually rushing through a few slides because just to give you a glimpse of an idea about what we have been doing here. Now I'm going to summarize everything here. Now earlier we selected, if you can remember, we thought about the machine learning approach, precisely a supervised regression approach, and then comes the we decided the machine learning approach, and then the classification, if you can remember, with Python Pandas, scikit-learn 70-30 rule to classify data, can train data and the testing data. And then comes the validation. If you can remember, we had this test oracle concepts, we had the mock server to simulate data, and then comes the comparator to compare the actual data against the predicted data. And then we use this result visualizer component, that is to generate results or generate the reports that we previously had a look. So all these things we conducted in our local servers, training the model, integrating it into the existing application, testing it out. We did all these things in our local test environments. So that's why we call this as the offline testing approach, right? So when I say now this is offline testing approach, then you would wonder, then what would be the online testing approach? It's nothing but we move all these steps into the production site, or we call it as a pre-production environment. In certain cases, we call it as a staging environment. We don't have mock servers there. Instead, we use exact production feeding channels or the endpoints, and then we deal with production like data, and we get live pictures. So we do the comparison and validation and evaluation for real-time data. So that's how you do the online testing approach. This is a pre-production verification just before you go live with the trained machine learning model. So here I have integrated all the I mean this you can consider as the one single slide. You can define all the things that we just discussed. So here, starting from the requirement analysis, when I mentioned about training the model, then evaluating it, generating the simulation of data, generating reports, and if you find any bugs, then you go back, do the fix, and then rework it likewise. So that this is what you call the offline method, and you moved all these testing steps into the online version with real world data. This is where you call the online approach. And once you have the optimum result, again with both offline and online, then you consider it as a selected model to go live with your live customers. So this is the entire approach of it. All right. So I think you have some kind of a understanding about what we did and what is machine learning and how machine learning has helped us achieving these targets. But before winding up the session, I would like to go through a few challenges that we encountered. So now we have tested this, we have gone live with this system. Now it's easy for me to boast about all the approaches that we implemented. But going back to a time that we first got this requirement, and thinking through the difficulties that we all had, determining the entire verification approach and training the model is, I mean, it was a nightmare for us back then, but now it has become a success story, and it was challenging. And then comes the pruning part. So let's say now, when you have a tree in your garden, if you don't want that tree to exceed certain level of height, then what would you normally do? You get the cutter and you prune it, right? So likewise, when you have too many branches in your decision trees, in your random forest algorithm, then you need to do some kind of a pruning exercise to cut down the decision trees that you have and cut down the branches that you have, or the multiple layers that you have in a single decision tree. Because if you have too many branches in your decision trees, then it would become a processing mess due to various other resource limitations and all. So that pruning part was a cumbersome exercise, time-consuming exercise, and was a challenge for us. And then comes fine-tuning the parameters to get the optimum outcome. Now, in machine learning terminology, we call it as hyperparameter optimization. So don't afraid for the name. It's like now earlier, now when I was showing you all this video clip, and now we had 10 to 15 different parameters to be fed into the machine learning algorithm to get an output for stoppage time or to a travel time. Now, if we are to feed all those parameters to the trained machine learning approach, it would again become a processing mess. So to mitigate that, we had to look at the most impacting parameters to get the optimum result. So instead of submitting 15 different parameters as a whole, we decided submitting 4 or 5 selected most impacting parameters to get the optimum value out of it. So that's what you called this hyperparameter optimization. That again a time-consuming and a challenging task. So we all know that designing an approach, this framework with all this logic is a challenging ask. And having done all this hard work, onboarding live customers was the biggest challenge for us, because they might end up with complaints and all. But we went live with that, and we ended up here. Up until now, we have 0 production bugs. Right now, we have about just over 100,000 consumers using the application, 300,000 plus deliveries being processed per minute, and we have hit the accuracy rate of 90%. So that's this whole story of implementing machine learning and implementing machine learning into an existing application, and more importantly, from a quality engineering perspective, how we verified it. So that's the whole story here, guys. So thank you very much for bearing the burden of hearing to this little story. So if you have any questions or doubts, you can raise it now. Over to you, Vidul.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Madhuka Perera. So, it was a valuable content. So, yeah, so I think our team member has put the feedback form. So you can just put it your comments or valuable suggestions into that feedback form, or else you can just unmute yourself or just type in the chat what's your question that what should over to Mr. Madhuka Perera about regarding today's session. So I have already some questions, so I think we should go to Q&A session with this time now, since
Yeah.
we are now running now. So the first question is what would be the future regarding quality engineering in AI in 2020 to 2030?
Yeah. So now Vidur answering answering to your question. Now I started with, if you can remember, I started with a stat calling name is compound annual growth rate, right? So CAGR. So machine learning is an industry where they have predicted it has a growth rate of close to 40% a year. Now with this pandemic situation, it's further up. So with this virtual kind of things and all. So in that case, it has a bigger opportunity, so bigger potential. But here, when you consider the here in our context, we have brilliant brains, we have brilliant mindsets who have defined several world-class machine learning technological components. But I don't see that we are correctly utilizing that knowledge. So in that case, I think machine learning and AI-based technology has the biggest future ahead of us. So if you consider now, your question is all about up until 2030. So before that, let's say 2025, you would notice that these are the trending technologies that we need to learn. So technology against quality engineering, you asked the question, right? So in that case, now there are certain frameworks being built using machine learning based technologies also. Now this particular framework, I explained it as Node.js based framework with certain other components to test a machine learning based algorithm. But what if we can build the framework using machine learning methodologies? So it becomes the future for us in a quality engineering world. So then physically, consume many times manually doing certain tests. Then you train the model and you watch a film, right? It will take care of your application. So that's how the future I see. Hope I answered your question.
Yeah. So, yeah. So the second question is that, sir, you have mentioned machine learning as a service. Is it how it going to be like?
Vidura, I didn't get the first part of it. What was that?
No, sir, you have mentioned the machine learning as a service in
yes. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, this person asked that. Yeah, I get the second question. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So now we have passed few eras, as I explained earlier. Yeah, you know what is software as a service, right? So we build the software and we provide it as a service to a consumer or a particular client. We did the same thing for networking things, and we did the same thing platform. So instead of building just a piece of code, a component, providing it as a service to a consumer, we build a platform and we provide it as a service. Now it has become more mature where we implement certain machine learning based technological components, and then we outsource, or we rather provide it as a service for our consumers. Then it has a more efficient rates, right? Now let's say you programmatically now, for example, let's say like now let's say you develop a component with Java or C#, and you have a certain level of accuracy in that, and you have a certain level of efficiency in that. But what if you incorporate a AI based model there? Then again, like I said earlier, a trained model would look after your services. So you take it to a client, you you sell it to your client as a service. So that again based on with AI based technology or machine learning based technology. So that's the future that we should look for.
Okay. So there was a third question. So actually, this person, she mentioned that he's a school student. So he asked a question. As a school student, I want to learn quality engineering and AI. Is there a specific pathway to work?
Yes. So I think it's a good question for all the quality engineering enthusiasts, I would say. So now let's say now during the past few years, we have been conducted few discussions with several universities to include several quality engineering modules into their courses, and I see a good good potential there, and I actually would like to ask that question in a different way. Now, when you are doing your BSc, or rather the degree level programs, then you can opt for mostly what we do is we opt for software engineering related degrees, because those are the things that is available here in Sri Lanka, right? And make sure you get into a course where you have quality engineering aspects. And if you don't find it, don't worry, just go ahead with software engineering, because I know for a fact that even certain software engineering contains this testing modules as well. Now if you take Google or something like Facebook, I would say there are, I mean, in the testing team, there are PhD holders. Why? Because it's such complex that, I mean, and the development work is such complex, so that we needed quality people or academically qualified people to look after the quality level of that particular application. So in order to do that, you need to follow a particular, you need to have a foundation first. It could be the BSc or the software engineering BSc that you would want to, and then comes there are certain certifications. Now for Sri Lanka, you have ISTQB certifications. They provide, I mean, SLUSCOM provides ISTQB certifications, as well as even British Computer Society provide. It's a world recognized quality engineering certification. You can do that. And there are certain, now ISO, even from last year onwards, or maybe 2 years onwards, we have this data science MSCs became very popular. So if you want to make sure you want the quality engineering plus an AI future, you can look for that particular opportunities as well. So MSCs in data science. So now here in Cisco Labs, I see a trend of implementing or going ahead with data science related projects. So I think we are in the early stages of providing AI based services to our foreign clients, but within the next year or two, we could see a good progress there as well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you, sir. So one other question. So this person asked that is there any free open source software for testing of the quality engineering process?
Well, there are free open source softwares, But I think that that particular person asked about automation frameworks, if I got it correctly, because now let's say, for example, if you want to do a website automation work, then you have Selenium. So it's an open source one. You can simply get get a framework set up quickly, so you can do that. But there are certain paid versions as well. So and there are certain vendors who provide, let's say, for example, let's say JetBrains. They provide IDEs equipped with test frameworks, but they enable features to a certain extent, so that if you want any advanced features, you have to pay for that. But if you are a newbie who would like to start test automation, then that particular free version would do. There are, yes, for your answer, yes, there are free open source framework or softwares, as well as paid versions that you can use.
So yeah, thank you, sir. And see, I think there's one question regarding that. Yeah. So I think it's a similar kind of question like this. That he asked that regarding the quality engineering jobs. So I mean, in the foreign countries, how it will be the quality engineering industry. So he asked about, I think, salaries.
Okay, so now here in Sri Lanka, let me first brief you to the Sri Lankan standards of it. So here in Sri Lanka, we have the SLASCOM acts as the common body here in Sri Lanka for most of the software companies. Most of the privilege and prestige software companies are listed in SLASCOM, and they have defined certain bands in different streams. For example, software engineering stream is a separate one, quality engineering stream is a separate one, and then comes the project management and business analysis and whatnot. But if you take countries like Australia, countries like Singapore, now I mean I have many friends who have been working here like 4 or 5 years. Now, since you mentioned about the salary detail, let's look at one of my friends who worked in one of my previous companies for 4 years. He went he went to Singapore, and he could secure a job in Visa, company called Visa. Visa, you all know, I think you have used this Visa credit cards, debit cards and all. That's the company in Singapore. So he got an offer for 850,000 lakhs per month, but the designation is senior quality engineer. He's super good at automation. So that, I think with that, I will conclude that answer. You get the understanding about the capacity that we can grow.
Yeah, I think yeah, the answer is clear by that answer. So yeah, so up to now, these are the pretty much, I mean, that question we have received so far. So actually, in this after this Q&A session, so I want to personally thank Mr. Madhuka Pereira for attending this session. And I mean, this is the final event of the Artificialization Tech Talk series. So in this Tech Talk series, I mean, we have gone through many milestones. So the audience probably know what we have gone through. And Mr. Madhuka Pereira, so you have just lifted our level into another level with this practical session. So so audience, so I'm very proud of, and I'm actually in this scenario, I mean, till May, actually we started on this session in the first week of May. So now we are in the first week of June. So 5 weeks, guys. So with this journey, you have encountered 5 milestones, 2 quizzes, and 1 this final event. So in the quizzes, we have encountered many registration. So in the both quizzes, we have encountered 1,000+ registration. So at the milestone scenarios in that perspective, so in the milestone registration, there were about, I think, 750+ registration around the 9 countries. So we have done good progress so far. So as the chief operating officer, I'm very happy, and my team also, they have done a pretty good job. And this is a proud moment that we have, waiting so far. So I will invite our CEO and Danushka, just give a thought about this amazing moment.
Yeah, thank you, Vidra. Good evening, everyone. I'm Udara Danushka, CEO at Trinity Innovations. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Madhu Verera, Associate Quality Engineer at Cisco Lab Sri Lanka, for sharing with us your knowledge and giving practical session with ML experience to our audience. So I think it is very important for everyone. And I would like to thank everyone in the audience for staying with us for 5 weeks journey. I don't think this the end. Stay with us. We have planned a lot of things like this in future. And finally, we apologize if there are any omissions from our end throughout the session series. Thank you, Vidra.
Okay, so as we said, actually, in this session we have encountered some network problems. In this session, you have encountered that, but there's minor issues. So at the end, we have done a good progress so far. We had so many comments, feedbacks, so good positive feedbacks that saying that this session is good, because in my past perspective, I like to share my view. The artificial intelligence is the next trend. So as Mr. Madhuka Perera says, that the machine learning as a service is going to becoming a new trend. So that means we can't get rid of that. So in every industry in the society, like that we have encountered, neuroengineering and robotics, and even let's say music, art, like every field, we have to use this artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, those kind of areas are going to be the key role in the every industry. It can be applied to every industry. So that's why we actually decided to hold this even held this Tech Talk series to the Sri Lankan community, and as well as all the globe community. So actually, I will thank again to personally, specialty to our team, Danushka, Masudhu Babasara, Mohammed Bandara, Darajani, Devin Javardhana, and there are some members who have, currently, they have some members are here because they have some exams and quizzes in their universities. So our team, actually, we have gone to 1 year journey now. Actually, we're happy to say that. So in this 1 year journey, we have implemented many services like web development, AI and IoT services, and other kind of areas. So we have done many services in this journey. So celebrating this first year journey, we have organized this Artificial and Tech Talk series. So I think you crowd, the crowd all around the world, so you got a clear idea and clear understanding how we can use AI in this session. So yeah, and I personally invite you to finalize, get a final group photo of everyone. So can you please switch on your video camera for get a
Vidura, before that, let me have a quick word. To be honest, I feel, I think that you as a team with all this audience, you all inspired me actually to deliver this in this session, and I really would like to congratulate your organizing committee and all the teams and all the participants who are in this audience. All the very best, guys. So and all the best wishes to achieve many milestones in time to come. So keep this up, keep the good work, and all the best. So if you need any help from my end or from our company end, we are more than happy to help you out. You can anytime reach us out. All the best. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. And please, can you please just switch on the camera so we can get a quick group photo? I will give. I mean, we will wait for 2 or 3 minutes for switching the camera. Guys, don't be shy. Okay, just switch on the cameras and get a good photo.
Do we need to smile with it?
Just wait for a second. Okay. So, Vanajit, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Okay, let's take a photo. Guys, 3, 2, 1, and smile. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So actually, thanks guys again for your contribution, and thanks Mr. Madhu Pereira, and also thank you for every speaker. Actually, we have mentioned so far. So there were 5 speakers, and actually there are 6 speakers, including Mr. Madhu Pereira. We have to mention every speaker. I mean, Mr. Takshira, and Mr. Janit Gunasekara, and also Ms. Nalin and Prince, and of course we have Mr. Kanishka Vijayashekara, and also today's session we have Mr. Hemaka. So with that, and Mr. Madhu Pereira, these 6 speakers have enhanced the variety of which areas we can go through this AI. So AI is not just a software engineering, as you guys seen. So it's a whole area, whole society we can imply that. So I think you got all clear idea about that. And yeah, so goodbye guys. So this is not the end though. Okay, we will meet you again soon. Okay, with another event. Okay, so guys, bye guys, and take care and be safe in the COVID pandemic.
Thanks guys. Stay safe.